Alright, hello. I am SunApple. I am so excited to bring us this match 15 minutes late, but that should be fine. It is going to be the grand finals, the last match of Touhou Mania Project. We have number 1 seed Gravity Coil going from the losers bracket to face Mahjong Seoul Official, the number 2 seed of the tournament. And I am SunApple, but I'm not alone. I'm here in the commentary booth with my good friend, my good buddy old pal, my duo, Dynascape.
Hello everybody, and how fitting is it that we have seed number 1 and seed number 2 back in the grand finals. Gravity Coil facing off from the losers bracket, just won about 24 hours ago against seed 3 Girlfriend ASMR to fight Mahjong Seoul Official for a chance at crowning themselves as the champion in Touhou Project Mania Cup. And also, it is a run back of last, I guess technically 2 weeks ago, where they had lost in a devastating 5-7 defeat. So they're gonna try to bring back the glory. Gravity Coil or Mahjong Seoul Official trying to defend their winner's crown. Even if they do lose, they still have the bracket reset to go for, but of course they want to cut things short and win things here and now. So, I mean, SunApple, we've got a glimpse into the matchup, like I said, 2 weeks ago. What had happened was Gravity Coil ended up protecting an LN and banning a Rice, but for the most part, picked a lot of Rice maps, including a couple of hybrids, whereas Mahjong Seoul Official protected a hybrid and tried to pick hybrids and LNs for the majority of the set. So I don't know if that's what we're going to be seeing here. Techs are coming out. What do you think the game plan is for each of the teams?
Yeah, I think we'll probably be seeing a kind of Rice versus LN matchup as usual. Though I do think Gravity Coil probably being the stronger Rice team, which is definitely going to be very helpful. We saw that yesterday, just having a lot of leverage, not really having to think, I guess, too much about the picks. Though definitely struggling a lot more on those hybrids. And I think that's somewhere that Mahjong Seoul Official can actually take advantage of a bit. And I mean, we're seeing the protects right now. We see Rice 7, I think that number is. Yeah, Rice 7 being protected from Gravity Coil, and LNX actually being protected from Mahjong Seoul Official. So Mahjong Seoul opting to play a lot more difficult maps, which may cater to their ability on that Rice X, since we actually didn't see Gravity Coil play that Rice X yesterday.
And if we're getting here that there might want to be a change of protects, I think that that should be fine, considering that they were the last one to protect, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. And let's see here. Yes, we are getting confirmation from the ref that they are able to change their protect. They wanted to originally protect Rice 7, but messed up and actually meant Rice X. So going for definitely a physicality angle is the plan for Gravity Coil. For Mahjong Seoul Official, nothing too crazy. They are going to have LNX. So unlike the last match, instead of both X's being banned, we are going to see both X's being protected. So interesting dynamic change there. And Hybrid 1 being banned out from Gravity Coil. Mahjong Seoul Official probably looking to ban one of the Rice maps. And SunApple, if I were them, what would I be looking at?
Honestly, I think as Mahjong Seoul Official, I feel like we can definitely go for something like that. Rice 7, I mean, we did see Gravity Coil kind of maybe choosing to protect it. Either that or maybe Rice 4, I think it is. Or Rice 2, I think. The more difficult, I guess, stamina map or not stamina. I feel like both maps, Rice 2 and Rice 3, are kind of stamina. But going for something that's a lot more difficult to be able to play and a lot more draining. But we're actually going to be seeing Rice 3 as the ban for Mahjong Seoul Official here. So definitely another very draining map. I think that map's like 4 to 5 minutes long. So something that is very, very just tedious to play, I would say. And I think that's a pretty good choice in my opinion.
Yeah, pretty much in line with what I was thinking as well, where, Rice X seems to be the protect from Gravity Coil, and it seems like the physicality slash stamina is kind of that big barrier that Mahjong solo official has to be wary of. So by taking out Rice 3, we saw yesterday a lot of misses, especially with those trickier patterns compared to Rice 2 with the jump stream. So good choice from them. They are going to start it off on LN2, so Density is the name of the game here to kick off this set.
Yeah, we did see Gravity Coil struggling a lot more yesterday than Girlfriend ASMR on a lot of these LN maps, especially on LN2, I would say. Probably their worst performing map just because maybe it was stamina or maybe it was just the density, since these patterns can be just so difficult to be able to read. It is 230 BPM LN like streams basically is how I like to imagine them. And honestly, it's just so many places to mess up for so long. Though all these maps are like 3 minutes long, it is kind of absurd whenever you look at the average length of a map in this pool.
Yeah, looking back at Gravity Coil's previous scores against Girlfriend ASMR, Ray had a 988 with a 1 miss. Resurred had a 985 with 3 misses, so if they can clean those up, that guarantees that they'll have 990 plus scores. I think that might be just enough to beat out Pavin and Donnex, but we'll have to see because we don't have any information on how Mahjong Solo official does on LNs. However, they are the ones that favorite in the map pool, so things looking good as they start off. A decent bit of an ac lead, especially with Pavin absolutely killing it in terms of accuracy once we get into this first density section.
Yeah, Pavin has just been a demon on these kinds of LN. This is basically their best skill set, especially LN density. So we will be seeing quite high scores from them in just this match in general, especially on the LN side. But Donnex is also no slouch. We are seeing our first miss from Ray, so that is going to swing the lead more in favor of Mahjong Solo official right before we get into the actual chorus of the map. It is at about 5k, so 2 misses or so can swing it back, and we do see that happening very often as we get into these more dense sections by basically all the players. So don't be surprised to see no FCs, honestly.
Exactly, we are in the grand finals now, and as we saw in the previous match, there weren't a ton of FCs thrown around, so definitely if you can get that for your team, it's definitely a huge boost for that team score. And I mean, if there's one person to look at to maybe drop, I'd have to say Donnex. Pavin has been such a standout player in basically any skill set in all of these high-level tournaments like IRL or even MWC. So honestly, I typically don't expect them to drop even on difficult maps like these, but anything can really happen here. Ray has done a good job to keep things in order even after that first drop, and as we get into this little break section, you see that the lead has shuffled over to 6,000 points off of the back of that miss, but also because Donnex is over both players' accuracy. With Ray dropping again, things are looking quite dire for Team Blue.
Yeah, this lead is just increasing more and more. Both players on Mahjong Solo official basically lapping both players on Gravity Coil. No one is even close to Donnex's accuracy, and that is the lowest accuracy on Mahjong Solo official. 12k lead is pretty devastating, though there is still a third of the map left. It'll take a lot for Mahjong Solo official to switch the lead over, though. They have a lot of room for error, and that's really good in this kind of map where it can be prone to quite a bit of error, I would say. We do have this little break right here, and we see everybody kind of stabilizing a bit more, getting what a much deserved break, though it isn't for too long at this point.
Getting into one of the last density sections, and I mean, Pavin and Donnex just really stand out performers. Donnex looking at a 992, Pavin shooting for almost a 994. To get these kinds of scores on LN maps in the grand finals is absolutely bonkers, especially considering Ray and Resurred are seemingly struggling on a map like this. So as the map tries to close out, lead is super brutal for Gravity Coil. It seems like Mahjong Solo official definitely has this one in the bag, but can't be too sure. We've seen crazier comebacks even in this past match.
That is definitely true, but I don't think we'll be seeing a here Mahjong solo official will be taking the first point and their own pick. So it will be letting Gravity Coil choose their next map. It is still very, very early in the match, so a lot of room to be able to choose whatever you want, honestly. It still takes quite a few breakpoints to be able to make this a guaranteed win on one side. So Gravity Coil has a lot of options to choose from. I'm not sure which one would probably be best. They can definitely go for the Rice one like they did last match, and maybe just going for something a bit more simpler just to shake off the nerves a bit.
Yeah, I mean, a 994 is absolutely insane. Just the fact that Mahjong Solo Official double F seeded alone, there's not too many players that you can field that will perform on Grand Finals day and bring you an FC of that nature. Even Nepogen had a slider break. Peach Mero had the only FC in the last match, so definitely a scary duo. Mahjong Solo Official looking extremely dominant on the LN, so Gravity Coil gonna have to pick up the pieces on any Rice map. And seeing how they protected Rice X, they did have that false Rice 7 protect. Maybe they want to go for something like that. But I think where their strengths lie are kind of in those speedier picks. Remember, against Girlfriend ASMR, they had some really good scores, especially in Rice 1 and Rice 2, and that's exactly what's going to be picked. Rice 1 from Gravity Coil. We're going to see a little bit of speed to start off Team Blue's assault.
Yeah, and just probably using the same strategy as they did yesterday. They did this exact same pick as their first one. Probably something that they're very, very comfortable on. This is, I think, a good pick for Gravity Coil just because of how consistent they are. And they do have Dev, who I think is probably the best player in the match for this kind of map. This is just their skill set. They've always been known, I guess maybe not always, but they've been pretty well known for having really good accuracy on any kind of difficulty of speed. And same thing with Raid, actually playing quite well on these kind of speedier patterns. Whereas I feel like Mahjong Solo Official maybe aren't as specialized in these patterns as they need to be against Gravity Coil.
Exactly, and Dev and Ray gonna be the lineup. Pav and Donex also, they're gonna stay in, so kind of like what we talked about many times before. Fatigue might be a factor if you keep in Pav and Donex on a lot of these maps, because it seems like they're gonna be kind of a stagnant and static duo coming into a lot of the LM maps for sure, and then also some of these Rice maps. Maybe for some other skill sets they'll switch up, but for now they're gonna stay in. And definitely a standout player on a map like this is going to be Dev. Had a disgustingly crazy score of 994 on this map, and they can recreate that performance. Gravity Coil are looking probably really good.
Yeah, and so far we're kind of seeing a similar thing happening right now at the 9.9 range for both players, or both teams. So we are actually getting into the meat of the map right now, seeing the real stamina sections, or not stamina, the real speed sections going through, and everybody being able to hold strong in this map is around 3 minutes, so it is a long amount of time that you will be having to play these streams for. There are a few little breaks in between though, it's not too much, but as we get past this first course, we do see Gravity Coil having the lead for the first instance, mostly based on the accuracy from Dev and Pavin. Pavin kind of struggling a bit, finding a few 200s in that last chorus, whereas Dev staying still as strong as they always do on these kinds of speed sections.
Yeah, and Donex doing pretty well to match up against Ray, but as you said, with Pavin missing quite a bit of MA and a couple of 200s to boot, seems like Gravity Coil is in a very good position to slide over a victory. However, one miss could definitely change it all. Especially with the objects in this match. I think at this point, it's about a 4,000 point swing if you miss. So that's something that Gravity Coil wants to not happen. And Mahjong Solo Official doing pretty well. Some of these patterns can be quite tricky, especially once you get into the more vocally intense parts. You get a lot of inside trills that can be quite heavy, but we saw actually some people miss on this section here. These very awkward patterns in the break section. Hopefully, it doesn't happen to anyone. And as we get into the next stream section, seems like everyone's doing just fine. But Gravity Coil has extended their lead by a little bit.
Yeah, and we are hitting that 4K range that you were talking about, and maybe Dawn-X may have crashed. It doesn't look like that is the case. But yeah, we are getting to that 4K range, so it allows Gravity Coil to be able to take a miss if they want to. Though so far we aren't even seeing anything close to that happening. Pavin still struggling a lot more than all the other players on Gravity Coil, so that is definitely not something that you want to see. We are getting to this last bit of map, and honestly at this point, unless we see a miss happening very, very soon from Gravity Coil, I believe Mahjong Soul Official will take it. Though I mean, the lead is actually swinging over. Gravity Coil may have gotten a few too many 200s, and it is so close right now. Less than 1,000 points. It's really coming down to MA at this moment.
Oh, and with that ending, it seems like Gravity Coil will hold on to that slight edge over Mahjong Soul Official. It got really scary with Ray dropping a lot of 200s and even a 100. However, at the end of the day, Gravity Coil is going to come out on top on this map. SunApple, I was talking about how to get home for this Grand Finals match, I had to drive well over the speed limit. However, it seems like Dev and Ray are even faster than me, as Dev gets a 996.5. What is that score?
Yeah, honestly, at that point, I was telling you that you should be going double the speed limit, but it's looking like Dev is going triple, so maybe it is a good sign for Gravity Coil taking their first map, and it is now on Mahjong Soul Official's side to be able to choose what pick they want to choose. I would think LN is probably a good idea. Gravity Coil struggled a lot on LN3 and LN4, so both of those pretty good options. Maybe trying their best to stay away from LN1 if possible, since Gravity Coil was able to actually take the map from Girlfriend ASMR last match. And we will be seeing the LN3 coming out from Mahjong Soul Official. So, something understandable. This map is just so awkward, and I think Gravity Coil isn't really the best at these more awkward, very dense kind of LN patterns.
Yeah, this is a very calculated pick from Mahjong Soul Official. Gravity Coil really struggled with this last night against Girlfriend ASMR. You saw Ray and Resred picking up a slew of misses on this map. So I think as a basis, you're probably looking at Pavin being very consistent on this map, and Dawn-X doesn't really have a better MA, I'd say, than the other players, but the fact that Dawn-X can full combo most maps, like no matter what, despite the accuracy, it is just really scary. So when you're looking at Mahjong Soul Official, usually you're going to be looking at two people that are very consistent. So I think that's what's needed for Team Red. As long as they can FC, I think they can really win against Gravity Coil no matter the circumstances. And Dawn-X putting on mirrors, so as you always say, it's a good sign, means that you practiced on this map. So we'll have to see how these four players fare on this Jackie Shieldy wildcard pick.
Yeah, it is interesting to say that Dawn-X doesn't really have too great of accuracies, because I feel like, especially on LNs, maybe a bit more on Rice that's the case, but their LN accuracy is just absolutely insane as well. I mean, we saw it in the last LN map, just both players, especially Pavin, but also Dawn-X, being able to have significantly higher accuracy than Gravity Coil. And if that happens again, it's going to be very difficult for Gravity Coil to be able to take this map, or even like come close to taking a single LN map. But we're starting off here. Everybody still holding strong, but we also haven't gotten into the real patterns in the map. It's really these mini jacks that are just spread all over the place. The players are talking about a Clover rematch, so I think that is a very good, I guess it's a very good comparison. This map is very much like Clover, so we'll just see how that goes right now.
And so far, only miss being Resred as they pick up the first one at the end of that section. Definitely a large hit to the accuracy as well. You see Ray trying to pick up the pieces, still beating out Don X, but Pavin absolutely a rock for Mahjong Soul Official, doing really well on this patternage, killing the Jacks as far as he can go, and 4,000 points is the difference right now. Seems like they're gonna have a tough time, Gravity Coil, trying to pick up any kind of break points over Mahjong Soul Official. It just really seems like compared to Girlfriend ASMR, they're more consistent, so it's really hard to break through and pick up break points against a team like this.
Yeah, I think especially on LN maps where there is, I would feel, a bit more room for error for Mahjong Soul Official just because their accuracy is so good. Misses don't mean as much on these kinds of LN maps just because there are honestly double the kind of nodes, and we do see a miss coming out from Pavin, but this lead still isn't even close to swinging. It is coming down to that 1k range, but I think the accuracy on Mahjong Soul Official just allows it to be fine, just taking a miss or two and just keeping this lead.
Yeah, it's always scary when you see a particularly dirty drop and the team still hold the lead. Definitely helped by the fact that Pavin's act is larger than Rezared's. Donex actually matching up with Ray. I did throw a slight slight against them by saying that their accuracy wasn't too well, but I mean, really showing that I am wrong, and Pavin actually dropping, but thankfully traded back by Rezared, getting into the last bit of it. And can physicality really play a factor on a map like this? Possibly. It's 3 minutes long, and Rezared actually showing signs of deterioration. Same with Pavin. Trades all around on the top half. It seems like once someone misses, either Pavin or Rezared, it's traded back by the other player, and because of that, I think Mahjong Soul Official is going to take this map.
Yeah, it was looking like Rezared just had the more dirty accuracy breaks in that section, just taking a lot more 200s than Pavin was able to. But we are going to be seeing double FCs, Donex having the top score of the lobby at 993, which is absolutely insane. Mahjong Soul Official taking it up 2-1. It is now time for Gravity Coil to choose whichever one of their rice maps most likely they want to be able to come back to this 2-2 lead.
And I'd like to issue my formal apology to Donex. Talking about MA, I was wrong. Donex absolutely popping off on the map and carrying Mahjong Soul Official to their second point. With Gravity Soul up next to pick. They did really well on Rice 1. It feels like they could do well on Rice 2 as well. Possibly even something like Rice 6. What I'd like to see is the Protect. Maybe it's not the time to pull the trigger, but I'd love to see how they do on that map, because that's also very speed dependent. So, I mean, any of these choices seem good as long as they're speedy, and with it being grand finals, on some primal sense, everything is fast.
Yeah, that is definitely true, and I believe the X in Donex's name actually stands for 10x ratio, so do not be talking down about him, Dynascape. But we will be seeing a Rice 5 pick. We are seeing this Epic Man 2, very, very dumpy, very, very just techie kind of Rice map, and I think this is a very, very good pick for Gravity Coil, since I do feel like Mahjong Soul Official definitely struggles a bit more on these kind of tech maps, just because Gravity Coil is just very, very good at these kind of really awkward maps, especially against Pavin and Donex.
Yeah, and feels like Gravity Coil is picking the same things that they picked against Girlfriend ASMR. They went Imana Marabe for their first one, and they're going Bloodthirsty Nightmare Lullaby yet again for their second pick of the match, so not really deviating from their original game plan this weekend. And yes, we are going to see Dev and Ray, Donex staying in, but Pavin actually subbed out. Nope, actually just changing slots, goes back into slot 1. So familiar names, familiar matchup. Can Mahjong Soul Official take it on a map like this, Sanae?
I'm not too sure, honestly. I think Gravity Coil is very, very consistent at these kinds of maps. And I think another thing to note, we did see this happening slightly yesterday for Gravity Coil. A lot of their players kind of struggling a lot in stamina as we get further and further into the match. So far, I don't think we'll be seeing that, but if we do continue to see that Pavin and Donex are still just playing constantly, nobody subbing in for them, I don't think that's necessarily the best sign for both these players, just because of how difficult these maps are. Keep in mind, if Gravity Coil does win this, they will have to go to they will have to go to bracket reset and play once again.
Yeah, and I think the bar is really set high for Mahjong Seoul official to clear, considering that Ray has proven that they can 996.5 this map. I think Dev with a cleaner run can definitely get up into the 994s. So when you're looking at an around 995 average to beat a team like Gravity Coil on a map like this, it gets really tough because that's where we're looking at a 1 to 10 MA. So Pavin and Donex, definitely a big challenge ahead of them as we get into Bloodthirsty Nightmare Lullaby, but that doesn't mean that they can't win outright. Anyone can falter on a map like this and pick up a couple misses, swing the tides, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I do think last time we did see Dev struggling a bit more on this intro, though they are having a lot cleaner version of this start, and that is showing very, very obviously because both these teams are actually basically tied, honestly. Only 500 points difference between them.
Yeah, but things looking pretty good, all things considered, for Mahjong Seoul official. If they can keep this up, I think 500 lead is as good as you can get with a 4-way FC. And Onyx and Pavin looking very clean. Pavin, as I say that, unfortunately dropping relatively clean overall, but obviously that miss is going to hurt a lot. Gravity Coil now up bat with that lead, has a 99.93 on the side of Dev, absolutely clearing everyone else in the lobby. Ray battling Donex in the bottom.
Yeah, truly shout out that Commentators curse. I do believe even with the miss, or even if Pavin didn't miss, Gravity Coil will still have the lead. We are getting to this 4,000 point range, and it is around that amount where a miss does, or you are able to take a miss and still come out unscathed. But we're actually seeing this lead kind of shorten a bit. It's looking like Mahjong Seoul official is tightening up their accuracies just a slight bit, though another miss is coming through from Pavin, and that's just going to destroy the lead that they were trying to inch closer and closer to their side, and instead just bring it more and more into Gravity Coil as we get to this 10k mark.
And with Pavin missing yet again, even picking up a late 200, begs the question, is it a little bit too physical for Pavin to comfortably FC these maps? Do they kind of see a lack in speed? Further Rice maps might tell the story, but for now, Dev actually dropping a bit ago. We get into this more truly section, and even with that miss, it doesn't matter too much. A lot more are going to be needed for Team Red to take it. However, there's not a lot of map left. With Donex missing, no more FCs left on the side of Team Red. Things are looking quite dire.
Yeah, that's an absolutely brutal miss from Mahjong Seoul official. We do get to this 8k lead right now. Ray is able to stabilize with their full combo for now. Everybody just has absolutely insane accuracies in my opinion. I don't think I've seen these accuracies so high. We do see Dev taking a very, very brutal miss though. As I'm saying this lead is slowly going in favor of Mahjong Seoul official, but there isn't too much time left in the map. We are going to have to see something happen from Gravity Coil. It is only around the 2 to 3k range, so there is a chance for Gravity Coil to fall out if a lot of misses come from Ray especially. I think right now they are the pillar that is keeping Gravity Coil strong, and they keep it until the end, winning, taking us to 2-2, all tied up.
Oh man, and looking at the judgments, I feel like if Pavin and Donex didn't have any misses, or even 2 less, they probably would have taken the point, especially with decently clean runs. Donex only with a 1 miss and 2 misses from Pavin, but only 1 200. So overall, it could have been greatness. It could have been a breakpoint for Mahjong Seoul official, but Gravity Coil keep it at equilibrium As things go to 2-2, Mahjong Soul Official is up next to bat, and currently the LN pool is dwindling and dwindling. So, as we say, once the LN pool kind of drains a little bit, things get a little nitty gritty. You're gonna have to switch over to the hybrids eventually, and so as they try to find the next best LN to pick, they're also going to have to think about which of the hybrids they're going to have to go for if the set goes the distance. And LNX is the pick. They're going to exhaust their Protect. Absolute Queen is what we're going to see here. And Gravity Coil definitely going to be tested.
Yeah, I do think that Gravity Coil kind of does have to play. I feel like for them it's been very, very difficult to be able to win maps, whereas for Mahjong Soul Official it's been a bit easier. So I think if Gravity Coil is maybe able to make it a bit more competitive in this LNX, that'll be very, very good for them. If they are able to take a breakpoint, that'll give them a lot of room for error, since, I mean, so far they haven't even had the chance to take very many errors. We already saw in the last map. I think if Donx didn't take that miss that they did, they could have taken the map. It was only like a 4k lead. It could have been just based off of ratio alone. There were so many minor things that led to Gravity Coil still being able to clench it. But if those minor things don't happen, if Mahjong Soul gets slightly luckier, maybe it isn't just luck, but if they get slightly luckier, they can still take these breakpoints. But so far, Gravity Coil hasn't been shown to be able to even come close to taking these LN points. They have to.
Yeah. We're going to start off this map with a little bit of a couple of release breaks. Hopefully no one fails on a couple of these and doesn't take any slide breaks. Seems like Ray took maybe 1 or 2 200s. And as you'll see, this map really is going to ramp up extremely quickly. Things are going to get a lot more dense, and as with all of the LNXs that we've seen so far, it's very varied in the skill sets that you need, and also most of them have been extremely quick. Speed is the name of the game on a map like this. Feels like everyone can't really MA this kind of map, but what's more important is that you keep that FC on the board, and so far everyone's looking very good, but it seems like Ray and Poppin are tied up. Ray actually finally falling, and Donix is beating out Resurrect by just a little bit. Mahjong Soul Official with the slightest bit of leads as we get into a little bit of a break section.
Yeah, I do think combo is the name of the game for this map, and we are seeing Gravity Coil missing on both players, so that is not something you want to see. Mahjong Soul Official being able to take this lead at this halfway point. We do have a little break with Pavan taking a miss as soon as we get into the next course. This lead is dwindling, but actually Ray's taking a bunch of misses. So many are coming through. Mahjong Soul Official's lead has skyrocketed up to this 12k range. It is just so good for them. They have so much room for error. Donx still being able to hold this FC. I believe nothing has been able to keep him down at all this match, and we're just seeing this lead continually stay in Mahjong Soul Officials as Resurrect takes another miss.
Yeah, it's not looking too great for Gravity Coil. 16,000 points is as much as we've seen so far, and it doesn't look like it's gonna stop anytime soon. It feels like whenever there's a little burst, whenever there's a very dense section in the map, Resurrect and Ray struggle just a little bit more than Pavan and Donx, and that's really shown by Donx comfortably top act in the lobby and also the only FC. Slight bit of a break as we finally get into the last section of the map, and it's just as fast as all the other ones. Ray taking yet another break, and as Gravity Coil struggles to hold combo, Donx does as well, does take a miss, but that's not going to mean much if you look at the difference between two of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, that missile was immediately traded out by Resurrect anyways, and another one coming through. I think at this point it is over. Mahjong Soul Official will be taking the lead once again, even with another miss coming out from Donx right before that ending. But they will be able to come out unscathed. The biggest lead we've seen so far, 28k. I don't know whether we'll be seeing something very similar to that. But for now, we do need to see Gravity Coil taking another map if they want to tie it up, and they still have quite a few maps to choose from. Though I think at this point, these Rice maps are just going to be getting closer and closer.
Yeah, I feel like all things considered, the Rice maps have been a bit closer than the LN maps if you take it as a whole. So with Gravity Coil up next to pick, they don't really need to reinvent the wheel. They can just stick to their game plan and pick what's most comfortable for them. Thankfully, they have a lot to choose from. They still have Rice 3, or sorry, Rice 2, and also Rice 4, 6, and 7. So still 4 picks left for them in the Rice pool, and all of them with their own quirks. But I think that aside from Rice 4, the core Jack map, everything is physical enough for the players of Mahjong Solo Official to potentially struggle a little bit more than the players on Gravity Coil. And so, I'd like to maybe see Clown Tans used as a last-ditch resort for Gravity Coil, but I don't think they need to bust it out anytime soon.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and we will be seeing the Rice 6 coming out. I think this is the same order that we are seeing Gravity Coil picking from yesterday. So I think you're right with them not trying to reinvent the wheel, maybe just not trying to think too much about the picks, just trying to think more about the maps as a whole, just trying to make sure that they are comfortable on them, and knowing which maps they need to practice is a good idea.
So, Gravity Coil, changing plans, going with the DZ Techie map, and I mean, the name is pretty apt. The Princess is insane. This map definitely is insane. And also at an OD8, I feel it's really mean, because there's so many parts in this map where the patterns feel unfair, and if you're just a little bit off, you're gonna take a lot of 200s. So Dev, Pavin, Ray, Donex, their work is 100% put out for them as we go into something like we've never seen before yet in the set. We're getting into finally some good old tech, and it's DC tech to boot, so if that doesn't tell you anything, I don't know what else can.
Yeah, DZ Tech definitely gives no room for error, I would say. This is what I like to say. It's like if you just randomly, like, we're choosing maps, or we're choosing, like, what is called notes to be able to click. And I mean, we're already seeing it. This is like a live map, sorta. It definitely plays a lot more better than a live map, but we are seeing people struggle just so much. Ray already taking a miss very early on, though it is before the 400 combo mark, so it is still fine.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to go for with the live map is that the patterns are so it's like isolated in difficulty, but they can be so different within such a short span of time. You see these weirder core jacks, you see flam jacks, and then you see weirder speed bursts, and that's all in the span of a couple of measures. So the variation in these tech patterns is absolutely insane compared to your regular standard run-of-the-mill tech map. And you see Ray struggling just a little bit, falling down into 99.4. Pavin actually cannot hold at all in terms of accuracy. So many dirty drops from them, lots of late 200s, lots of early 200s. Just their UR is all over the place, as with Pavin's drops, even with Dev's miss, I think Gravity Coil is still going to have a tight hold over this map.
Yeah, I think these bursts are just catching out Pavin just a bit more, though the lead has only become 2,500. So if we see Ray missing once again, it can still allow Mahjong Solo Official to take it, just because Donex has had such a good, I guess, understanding of this map so far. 99.7 is kind of unheard of on this map, but I think Gravity Coil so far, being able to hold out on accuracy alone, is definitely something that is helping them out a lot. The early miss from Ray isn't too big. As a result, we are just continually seeing these players playing pretty well. So far, we haven't seen a too difficult section in a while, but I think as soon as we get back right into the tech stuff, we'll probably see a miss or two. We haven't seen Ray struggling a lot on these transitions, so be sure to check him out whenever they happen.
Exactly, and it's so weird seeing the combo advantage over at Mahjong Solo Official by a large amount, but the lead was for Gravity Coil until Ray had that drop. So those misses definitely adding up for Gravity Coil and spelling their doom, as potentially Mahjong Soul can take the first break point of the set, and what a big one it would be. All they need to do is just hold out. Donnex has been such a stellar player for Team Red for the entirety of this tournament, and it looks to be no different. Pavan is gonna drop, actually does it twice in the last couple of seconds in the map. Is it enough for Gravity Coil to take it?
Yeah, maybe Pavan wasn't able to hold out, and we see another one, so I think that allows Gravity Coil to just have too much room for error, unless something absolutely devastating happens in this last bit, and that is not going to happen. Instead, Gravity Coil will be able to take it, tying it up 3-3. It was in the hands of Mahjong Soul Official up until those last 10 seconds, but Pavan taking those two misses at the end was absolutely devastating. Donnex FC was not enough to hold back Gravity Coil in that last moment.
And what a devastating loss for Mahjong Soul Official. They had that break point. I mean, the lead that they had accrued over time was off the back of Pavan and Donnex being able to hold combo for so long. However, with Pavan's unfortunate drops at the end, things swung over to Gravity Coil at the last second. And, you know, all things considered, Pavan didn't have the strongest run that they could have. So things still equal for both of these teams. Gravity Coil having a hold over any rice map, Mahjong Soul Official being dominant on any LN map, and I think that's going to continue here with Mahjong Soul Official up next to pick. They still have Zillion Lights and also Lies in Reality. I'd like to see Zillion Lights first before we delve into Lies in Reality. However, I think that they could really choose either at this point.
Yeah, I think they're both about the same. I would actually prefer Lies in Reality just to be able to give yourself another room for error. Just because we did see Gravity Coil playing really, really well yesterday on Zillion Light. They were able to take that breakpoint, and we are actually going to be able to see Lies in Reality. So I think it is a good idea. Keep in mind, I think this is around the same point when Gravity Coil took the breakpoint and then lost the breakpoint. So if Mahjong Soul Official is able to take the breakpoint and not lose one, then it can definitely help them out a lot in kind of like their mentality, especially.
Yeah, I think this is probably the one map where Mahjong Soul Official really have to play perfectly. Resred and Ray have shown that they can provide some crazy scores on this map, and if they can recreate that, and if Ray can pull off an FC, there's not too many duos in this world that could beat that score. So Mahjong Soul Official cannot afford to misstep at all. Pavan Donnex still up to bat. They have not switched out at all, whereas Gravity Coil has that malleableness, has had that extra player working for them, whether it be Rice or LN. So we'll have to see. Again, fatigue might be setting in for both of these players. We saw Pavan struggled a lot in that last map, so hopefully they can keep things tight here.
Yeah, I do feel like this is kind of one of the turning points. This is really where players will begin to start running out of stamina at this moment, just because they've been playing so long maps over and over again, just having to keep their foot on the pedal constantly. But we're getting into this next map. Pavan and Resred both mirroring on, I guess, their like scores as well as the mod. But for now, we do see Mahjong Soul Official having this slight lead, but this map just absolutely gets more and more brutal as we go through, so I think this can definitely switch up.
Resred and Ray didn't really have the best start, all things considered. However, when you look at the difference in score, it's not too bad for Gravity Coil. Pavan and Donnex doing well, but maybe not well enough. The lead has been dwindling by just a little bit, and with Ray beating Donnex by about as much as Pavan is beating Resred, basically the scores are tied. We do have a smaller section after we pass by that first guitar solo, but once we get into the next one and things speed up, we'll really see where these players are tested. Here we go.
Yeah, this has been the closest map we've seen so far. It's honestly razor thin in terms of margins. This is actually just coming down to ratios. And it is switching over to Gravity Coil. I think their ratios just have been slightly stronger. Donex struggling a lot more on these kind of releases. And as I'm saying this, they actually take the break. So Gravity Coil is going to be taking the lead for the first time in an LN map.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you cannot afford to miss on this map. If you're Mahjong Soul official, this is Gravity Coil's like one of their strongest LN maps for sure. And getting into this vocal section, definitely when they get a little bit more intense, you see patterns like this, and everyone actually passes it with flying colors. However, Gravity Coil seems to misstep by just a little bit. That miss is gonna hurt. And I think things are going to be, yet again, at equilibrium. Ray back at the combo cap, and things are switching back and forth now.
Yeah, it's back to being a razor-thin margin, just slightly in favor of Mahjong Soul official. So far, Gravity Coil has been struggling a bit more on the patterns that get more and more dense, especially Ray having, as I said this before, struggling a lot on the transitions. But Mahjong Soul official needs to hold strong. Donex cannot take another miss like they did earlier, since right now, they need this accuracy lead that they have so far, and we are getting to the last quarter of the map. Mahjong Soul official's lead has been increasing, though it is still not enough to allow for a miss. No errors can be done from either Pavan or Donex. Really just make sure that nobody takes a miss right now. Everybody has to stand strong. Even 200s can swing this over. Ray struggling a bit on these kind of patterns. I think they have been getting quite a few 200s, which is allowing Mahjong Soul official to be able to take this lead further and further. And as we get into the last bit of map, I think this allows Mahjong Soul to take the map. And a miss coming up from Ray just definitely seals the deal. Mahjong Soul official going up 4-3, even with the ending miss from Pavan.
Phew, things got really scary for Mahjong Soul official at one point when Donex had that slew of misses. However, repeated misses from Ray and an overall stomp in terms of accuracy will lead Mahjong Soul official to a decent amount of a win. Yeah, I mean, Mahjong Soul official really killed it at the end there, despite that miss, like you said, from Pavan. 7,000 point victory. So, I mean, things are going as well as they can, and nothing we haven't seen before. This is about the margin that Mahjong Soul official has been being Gravity Coil on. There's only one LN map left for Team Red to pick, and that's going to be the coordination pick. Gravity Coil, still a lot of choices left. Rice 2, 4, 7, and X up for grab for them. They're going to pick Rice 7 to start off.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good pick. I think Gravity Coil did absolutely insane on this map last time. I believe it was like 1 or 2 FCs, which is very difficult to do on this kind of map, especially since it is very important to FC because this is the shortest map in the pool. But I think at this point, Mahjong Soul official don't really have too many great maps to be able to choose. They still do have LN1 for after this map, but all that means is that they need to be able to take as many breakpoints as possible. And I think this is a possibility for Mahjong Soul official to take a breakpoint, just because, as I said earlier, this map is very short. So combo matters a lot, and even if Gravity Coil are very good at it, they've seemed to have some consistency issues today, especially Ray, just kind of struggling a lot on that.
Yeah, I think with this map, it's a bit like Rice 6 in the sense that there's a good mixture of different Rice skill sets within the entire map itself. However, I think that the transitions in general are a lot lighter and a lot easier than what we saw in the Princess is Insane. So even though I think there's a bit less of a physicality requirement on this map, it's still definitely chokeable in my opinion. So definitely watch out for any stray misses that can be caught up in this map as a whole. But I think for Pavan Donex, an FC would be great.
Yeah, definitely if both players can FC, I do think that gives them a lot of, I guess, ability to be able to take it. But we also do have to see them do pretty well on accuracy, especially at the start, just trying their best to, I guess, get as high of accuracy as possible this map. Doesn't really start until, I would say, this section right here, so I think at this point there is a possibility for people to miss, but so far everybody's been playing it perfectly. Gravity Coil taking a lead just off of accuracy alone.
We go into this weirder streamy section, and some chords make their appearance here, so there's a bit of a couple of jacks intertwined in the section. However, Devin Ray doing super well on it, both above a 99.9, beating out the respective opponents by just a little bit. Nothing that can be solved by a miss from Ray. However, looking at how things are going, even with that miss, their lead is at a comfortable 3,000 points, and that's because of DonX's unfortunate act drop.
Yeah, DonX's act drop was just so devastating that the miss from Ray doesn't even matter that much. Ray had a super clean miss, so that definitely helped him out a lot. A fourth of the map left, and this lead's still very, very small, honestly, so Gravity Coil still has to stand strong, especially as strong as they can, but we're actually seeing Mahjong official taking, I believe, a few 200s, so that's swinging the lead over more and more in favor of Gravity Coil, and that allows them to take a miss if they need to, and they may need it at this ending, but as we get sliver of the map left, I think this will allow Gravity Coil to win, and with DonX's miss, that's just the cherry on top.
Yeah, DonX unfortunately missing at that final jack section, but it didn't matter anyways. The act really sealed the deal there. And even though Ray had one miss and even a 50, they had the best MA by a long shot. And a 994 performance from Dev definitely helped. So Gravity Coil ties things up yet again. No teams dropping any sort of breakpoints. Mahjong Solo official 1 LN pick left in the tank. That's LN1. Then if they can secure this, they have to go into hybrids, but instead they switch up the game plan and go for hybrid 2 immediately. And I don't think this is a bad choice at all. What we saw last match / yesterday, we saw Girlfriend ASMR go for this pick, and they had such a big lead but flubbed it at the very end. So all Mahjong Solo official needs to do is not recreate what happened to Girlfriend ASMR 24 hours ago.
Yeah, honestly, I really like this pick from Mahjong Solo official. I think this is a very, very smart pick to do. We did see that Gravity Coil is very, very well versed on that LN1, and I think especially looking at that last LN map that you played, it was super close up until the end, and it was super close just because it was slightly easier in terms of density. Not as many places for them to, I guess, just win out off of physicality alone, and I think that LN1 just isn't that physical. So yeah, I think it leaves Gravity Coil for some room to be able to take a map that I don't think you have the ability to lose. It is 4-4, it is best of 5 at this point, 1 breakpoint, and it's over for these teams.
And I've got to say, Hybrid 2, the more I think about it, looks better and better as it stews in my head. The main thing you look for when it comes to Mahjong Solo official is the absolute consistency that Pavin and DonX bring to the table on any pick. And on a map like this, that's 100% what you need. There's so many key eyes in this map where if you missed up once, it might spell game over for you. That it seems like such a good choice, and I think this was one of the lowest average scores from yesterday's match. So looking at how Resurred has already missed on one of the patterns, and you saw that on average Ray and Resurred got about a 980 scoreline, things are looking good as we get into that first burst.
Yeah, Pavin does take a miss after it, but it is honestly a very, very clean one, and Ray immediately trades it back, and another miss coming out, so Mahjong Solo official will be able to have this lead for this first section. This map is decently short, especially compared to some of the other LM maps that we haven't seen, 2 minutes and 40 seconds, so misses mean a lot, and a 10k lead means just so much more than I think some people realize at this point. We are seeing DonX continuing with this FC, the only one in lobby left.
Yeah, a bit of a shieldy section here, and they're very quick, very fast, and we get into one of these streams, and a little bit of a break as we assess the situation. It seems like 9,000 points is the difference between these two teams, and that's a very comfortable lead. We're gonna have to see how all four players fare on this next Ki though as it comes up. Resurred takes an early miss, and the lead is definitely soaring for Team Red.
Yeah, we did see the similar lead last time though. I believe it was around 15k, and it was able to be overcome for Gravity Coil as long as they were able to hold strong until the end. But Resurred just continuing to miss right now in these sections, and this lead is actually just becoming bigger and bigger for Mahjong Solo Official. These players, Donnex and Pavin, able to hold combo, but as I'm saying, this Pavin does take a break. It does swing it over to Gravity Coil just slightly, but still, it is very hard to overcome a 20k lead. It's just going to have to be so much more, and Resurred taking a very, very dirty drop. It is at this 33k lead. I don't think anything can really come back from this. I think there has to be something just terrible to happen to Mahjong Solo Official for them to lose this map, and Pavin missing is honestly just a drop in the bucket. They need so much more for Gravity Coil to be able to win this. Pavin can miss these for like 5 or 6 more times, and I think it'll still be fine for Mahjong Solo Official. And as we head up until this last section, Mahjong Solo Official is continuing to have this massive lead, and Donnex only having one miss, I believe. They may have an FC, right, missing at this last point. And that is it. Mahjong Solo Official will take it, and taking a hybrid pick.
Oh man, and what a big victory for Mahjong Solo Official. 30,000 points. Pavin did have repeated misses and also not the best ratio in general, but still beats out Resurred and Ray by a country mile. Resurred with so many misses, so many continual misses across the map. Ray had a pretty rough early start and was able to salvage the combo, but just not salvage the point. Mahjong Solo Official goes up 5-4. They're looking at one more pick and to be able to get to that match point situation and guarantee at least a tiebreaker. But for now, Gravity Coil to the drawing board, as they have a couple of rice picks left in the tank, especially looking at their protect. And seeing as how this is potentially their last pick, they might want to go for it right now.
Yeah, I do think it is probably the best idea to just go for it right now. It's either that or maybe Rice 2. I don't think they actually feel very comfortable going for the Rice 4 slot. They didn't do it yesterday, so I think it's something that they're probably avoiding. So I think at this point, going for your protect is probably the best idea. Just feeling yourself a bit, honestly. Just going for something that you feel really, really confident in is probably the best idea, since you did just have probably the most devastating loss that you've had. And we will be seeing at Rice X coming out the hardest Rice map in the pool. We saw the hardest LN map, and we saw Mahjong Solo Official absolutely dominate on that one. So I really hope to see Gravity Coil doing the same to Mahjong Solo Official to at least shake up Mahjong Solo Official right now.
And 4.5 minutes of OD 8.2 Ska. It's just such a... There's a reason why it's called Rice X. It's technicality-wise the hardest map. You still have the accuracy requirement, especially looking at the OD, and the length will absolutely destroy people. As per Ska, from the map description, I'll let him describe the map as best as he could, and it's such a good description. There's a lesser emphasis on the streams, although they are a big part of the chart. Most of the expression and difficulty comes from the jack usage and irregular patterning. There's a mid-physical requirement, which is actually kind of funny considering how it's the Rice X map, and also considering how this map plays out. But there is an extremely high level of consistency and technicality all throughout. So, I mean, when Scott says it's hard, you best believe it is a tough map. So, Devin Ray, we know they have the physicality for it, and I think Donnex can definitely bring a good score to the table. All eyes should be on Pavin. If they can bring a good supporting score for Mahjong Solo Official, they might just be able to take this Rice X pick.
Yeah, I do think Pavin and honestly, possibly Ray as well. I do think Ray may struggle a bit more than Dev. I think Dev has a higher physicality threshold than all the other players, maybe besides Sanae. But we do see Pavin taking a very fair first break and a very, very dirty one. So that just gives Gravity Coil the lead early on in this map, and another one coming up from Pavin is honestly devastating. They're just coming out back and forth constantly.
Yeah, it seems like Pavin cannot keep up with the speed required for this map. And I mean, there's a couple of disgusting trills, some inside, some outside, some one-handed, some two-handed. But overall, all these players seem like they can't really hold a candle to the other accuracies that were hit on the other Rice maps in the pool. Pavin under a 99 as Dynascape is being beaten out by both players on Gravity Coil. The lead is now up to 17,000 and still climbing. Pavin missing yet again, and I mean, SunApple, I don't want to call it now, but with Pavin struggling on this map, it's such a tough uphill battle.
All I gotta say, when it's this close, you always gotta rely on the gamma rays. So far,
100%, yeah.
So far, the gamma rays has never like helped out, but you gotta rely on it at some point. Pavin just kind of struggling a bit more, and honestly, I feel like to me this is already over. I think when it's just so obvious that a player is struggling so much, it's just very hard to come back from. So I think, honestly, this is very devastating for Mahjong Soul Official. Not only just because they lose a point, but also just because, keep in mind, Dynascape and Pavin are going to be having to play every single map. They haven't had to switch out once. And so having to go from such a difficult map to what you have to play next, which is also going to be a very hard map, is going to be pretty demanding on Pavin and Dynascape and Pavin especially.
Ray finally taking the first break on the side of Gravity Coil, but of course it's been traded out yet again and again from Pavin. Dev on the matchup with Dynascape, both of the only FCs left in this match. Dev is beating Dynascape by quite the amount. When you look at how many notes have been accrued, we're getting up to 4,000 combo now. A 99.71 versus 99.61 is very much a big deal. The level of consistency that Dev has on a map like this is insane. And as we get into this smaller break section, we finally pass through 3/4 of the map. I mean, Pavin's gotta be breathing a sigh of relief as the map is almost done. About a minute left to go as we get into this bit of a guitar solo. A lot of trills left to be had.
Yeah, I do think the most devastating part of this map is definitely its 4 minutes and 30-second drain time. It is just so long of so much stuff happening. I don't think we've seen many breaks, if any at all, which is honestly even more impressive. I believe Dev and Dynascape both have FCs up until this point. I don't think they've been able to miss. So it has been definitely very impressive to see both of them play. Dev, I believe, coming up to this 990k range. Pavin continually taking misses. Not really blaming them too much. I think it's obvious that at this point, Mahjong Soul Official will not be winning this unless, as I always say, gamma rays. They gotta come someday. Dev finally taking a break, so Dynascape is the final hero standing on this FC train.
Yeah, I don't think gamma rays hit both Dev and Ray at that moment. It was more like second Dan rays, but I mean, it was something, right? You know, they tried to manifest it, but it didn't turn out in the end. No more FCs left as the map closes out. Dynascape finally missing, but Gravity Coil, such a big victory over Mahjong Soul Official. The most dominant map we've seen so far, 60,000 points. It makes sense, it's Rice X, right? With the Rice team in hand, but things are getting scary now. SunApple, there's 2 more regular picks left, and both teams 100% need to hold their own picks. As we get Mahjong Soul Official's next pick, there's still Hybrid 3 and LN1 left for them. Which one do you think they're gonna choose?
I would probably say Hybrid 3. I don't think they want to pick LN1. I do think they are taking a timeout, by the way. I do think it is a good idea just to let Pavin regain some stamina, since obviously that would be very, very difficult for Pavin to play in general. The last map, and especially, I think without a break, it is kind of unwinnable to be able to win, or kind of unwinnable to be able to play this next map, and it's just going to be devastating for their physicality and their mental. But in terms of picks, I think not wanting to play LN1 can be understandable, though you can still play it. It is still possible to play. Keep in mind, Mahjong Soul Official has the opportunity for bracket reset. I don't think they want to offer that. I think it is best for Mahjong Soul Official to just win it right out the bat if they can, hoping for going to Hybrid 3, winning that really comfortably. It's like they saw in Hybrid 2. They do also have the scores of Hybrid 1 from Gravity Coil, so if they do think that they are playing that pretty well compared to Mahjong Soul Official, or compared to Gravity Coil, I think Hybrids is just the best choice.
And going back to how they're taking a timeout, I really think that someone else should have subbed in for Pavin, knowing that we've been going on for 10 maps at this point. You know that Nickname is in here. I really think that Nickname should have played instead of Pavin, just so that Pavin could get that little break. Just knowing that Pavin had to endure that 4.5 minute slugfest of a map. But all things considered, they are smart in taking this time out. Gotta do it while you can. And right before your final pick is definitely the best option at the moment. Gravity Coil still has theirs, so even if Mahjong Soul Official holds their next pick, Gravity Coil still does have the timeout to really reset the mindset and hone in on which one of the rice maps they want to choose for last. And as far as picks go, I don't know how I feel about Hybrid 3 for Mahjong Soul Official. If we go back to the finals map, we saw on what's called Caracasa Scramble, that was Gravity Coil's best performing LN/Hybrid. And I think Falling Fireworks is kind of in that same vein. We do have confirmation of scores from Gravity Coil, at least in their match against Girlfriend ASMR as well, where we know that that basic range where they'll score in. We saw Resurrect with a 992 last night, as well as Ray around a 991 if they were to FC it. So I think if you're Mahjong Soul Official, you have the local scores of Pavin and Don X. If you think you can beat a 992 average, and you know for both of them they're so consistent, why not go for it, right?
Yeah, that is definitely true. I think that if you can guarantee that you can win Zillion Lights, then that is definitely the pick. I'm just afraid that Gravity Coil may have... I think if you have the information and you know you'll win Zillion Lights, you should definitely pick it. But if you don't, for some reason, aren't too confident, I think Falling Fireworks is probably a better pick. That's just how I'm thinking of it. I feel like Falling Fireworks may just have a bit more area for Gravity Coil to be able to mess up on, and Mahjong Soul Official generally just has a bit more higher accuracy in general, and I think a very, very awkward kind of map with a lot of places to be able to mess up on is a pretty good idea for Gravity Coil, or for Mahjong Soul Official.
It does kind of suck that Zillion Lights definitely still has a bit of a physical barrier, in the sense that it is quite shieldy, and with Pavin playing that last map again, stamina comes to mind, that need for a break. So Mahjong Soul Official is gonna roll a bit of the dice as they pick Hybrid 3 as their last pick, and oh boy, they need to hold on to this like certainly, because Gravity Coil has absolutely killed it on every single rice map. So if Mahjong Soul Official isn't able to grab a hold of this map, things could be looking towards a bracket reset without even a need for tiebreaker.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I think it's especially considering that Mahjong Soul Official has banned the Rice 3, which is another pretty big jump streamy map. I think Gravity Coil most likely just goes Rice 2 after this, being another jump stream map. If they win this, take a break point, they go to they don't go to tiebreaker, they go to bracket reset. If they lose this, they pick that, most likely go to tiebreaker, and then we'll have to see how tiebreaker goes. But I mean, it really just relies on this map. This is the make or break for Mahjong Soul Official. This is the most important map of the match. I think if they win this, they have a pretty easy path to victory. But if they lose this, they kind of are guaranteed to pick. They're kind of guaranteed to go to bracket reset. And considering that Donex and Pavin haven't subbed out for anything, I think it's kind of a death sentence.
For sure, especially when you're looking at the last two maps in the Rice pool being Rice 2 and Rice 4. Fast jump stream. I'm looking at Pavin definitely, where they might falter as we've seen in Rice X, as well as a pretty fast core jack. It's not as fast as finals, but of course the density is way higher than anything that we've seen before. So as we gear up for this last pick from Mahjong Soul Official, the back of the minds, masterminds of Gravity Coil, I feel like the other teammates in Dev and Poca gotta be scribbling on the notepad, think about which one is the next best one to pick. We're gonna see falling fireworks here. We haven't seen it in that last match from Gravity Coil, so Mahjong Soul Official kind of going in blind, don't really have any data. So what a risky pick this is. I'm gonna have to see how this one turns out.
Yeah, and definitely it is the time for risks, I would say, for Mahjong Soul Official. Betting it all on black is what they need to do right now. And as we go in, just seeing the start, we're already seeing a slight lead for Mahjong Soul Official. Maybe this is a telltale sign that they're going to win this, but we can never tell, we can never doubt. We saw Gravity Coil taking a map from Girlfriend ASMR yesterday from the clutches of defeat, and I think that can still happen in this map as well. There are so many places for air, so many areas where you just have to consistently hold combo. And we're actually seeing Pavin being the first to drop in this early section. Everybody on Gravity Coil is standing strong until Resurred takes another one.
Yeah, and Donex very much so the standout player with the only FC, as Ray drops as well, and it's quite an ugly one. So Mahjong Soul Official gonna have a big lead as another full reset from Gravity Coil. As long as Pavin can keep it up, and they really cannot, Team Red is gonna be looking pretty. But I mean, Ray and Resred not really being able to hold combo for a large amount of time. A lot of these burstier patterns to go into the LN sections have been hurting Ray especially. So as we calm things down and we get into the back half of the map, Team Red is going to see a very big lead.
Yeah, Ray's just been kind of struggling, especially on not only just their combo, their accuracy, especially we're already seeing it. It is around this 98 range. Whereas Pavin and Donex just absolutely killing this map, honestly. They have been known as the FC demon, as you said earlier on, as well as having pretty good accuracy at the same time. But Pavin doing pretty well in terms of accuracy, Resurred having a higher one. But it's not a huge deal. Pavin just really has to focus on being able to beat out Ray, and they're doing this quite steadily. As we get into the second half of the map, we do see Mahjong Soul Official this lead at 20k. We saw a 20k lead before crumble to 0, but so far it's looking like Mahjong Soul Official are pretty confident.
Oh yeah, and things are about to kick in into that last Ki. We have a smaller LN coordination section, but here we go back into the bursts, and all eyes are on Gravity Coil. If they can hold on to the lead, a couple of slips from Mahjong Soul Official might swing it, but Ray is gonna fall. Same thing with Resurred, yet another full reset. Donex and Pavin cruising by with these streams, it just seems like they're so dominant when compared to Team Blue. And I was trying to close out now. Such a huge lead. I don't think things can be... I don't think they can come back at all.
Yeah, I mean, last map we saw a lead very similar to this, which is around 60k, and I personally said Gamma Rays, you said 2 Dan Rays. But I think we're going to have to see something similar, maybe something coming into Don X's computer at this moment. But I don't think that's happening as we get into this last section. It is very easy, and I don't think we're going to be seeing a 50k lead drop to 0 in that time. So Mahjong Seoul official will be on match point.
What is that score from Don X? How do you FC a map like this, absolutely gapping everyone else in the lobby by at least, I think, what is that? At least 20,000 points. Don X has been such a standout player in this tournament, and time again, they've put up just genuine Colossus performances. And Mahjong Seoul official, off of the back of that, is going to guarantee themselves at least the tiebreaker. Gravity Coil, still a couple picks left in their belt in terms of the Rice maps. Which one is the best suited for them?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I feel like we should just start calling them Don F instead of Don X. They've just been able to FC basically. They've been able to FC basically everything on command. But it is time for Gravity Coil. They still have 2 Rice maps left. I highly doubt they go for Rice 4. It looks like they absolutely hate that map for whatever reason. Just not really ever wanting to play it. So Rice 2 is... I don't see an avenue for anything else. No way you play Zillion Lights, especially considering how dominant you've been on the Rices so far.
Interesting thing to consider as well. If you're Mahjong Seoul official and you know, if you think Poppin can't really stand up to either Ray or Dev on a map that's chosen by Gravity Coil, you sub in nicknames so they can have a little break before tiebreaker. Do you throw away this pick in hopes of a better performance for that final map? It's something to consider for Team Red. It could be a possible avenue just to give yourself the best shot at this set, because again, you don't want to let things go the distance. You want to seal it here and now, because as the set goes on and on, once again, you know that Pavin and Donix have to play every single map. And Gravity Coil has Dev/Adiza subbing in based on whether or not Rice, Ellen, or a hybrid is chosen. So Mahjong Seoul official, precarious situation. They have a couple of tactical tricks that they can use, even though time is running short, but you really have to bust it out now. Gravity Coil taking a while to pick. They are using that timeout, as they are guaranteed 1 per set. So, I mean, tensions mounting as we get into the last standard 2 minutes of break time before we get into a possible tiebreaker.
Yeah, I do think this is a pretty good time for a timeout. It's either this or before tiebreaker. Gravity Coil have to win this map, so they don't really have that much of a choice. And yeah, I just think Gravity Coil probably already know what map they're gonna pick. Mahjong Seoul official probably had to actually think a bit more, just because they had so many more options. But for Gravity Coil at this point, this is do or die. But I think just judging off of how well you've been playing on Rice, you shouldn't feel too, I guess, worried. I think you should try your best to get people to start playing the tiebreaker a bit more, just looking, analyzing it, since I know a lot of players just kind of go into that a lot of times kind of sight reading, just because it's so difficult to be able to consistently play a tiebreaker. So maybe just getting some people to analyze it, seeing the more difficult patterns, making sure you're prepared for any tricks that is up its sleeve, and I think this is a perfect time to be able to do that for both teams, honestly.
Yeah, and I know we're looking into the future quite a bit, but thinking about the tiebreaker, in my honest opinion, it's a little bit skewed towards LN, so in that way, I think that it's favored a little bit towards Mahjong Seoul official in that sense. However, with the physicality bump compared to the rest of the LN pool, in that way, Gravity Coil has the edge because, as we've seen, the physicality barrier is such a hurdle for Pavin in particular compared to how the players on Gravity Coil do. So as Gravity Coil chooses their last pick of Rice 2, we see a showdown on some jump stream. Rice 3 was banned out, but they can't Team Red can't dodge jump stream forever as we get into the faster one of the picks, clocking in at 290 BPM for 4 minutes. This one very much so a stam fest, and Pavin is gonna possibly stay in. We're not gonna see that sub-in trick that I was hypothetically talking about. Ray as well, of course. I think we're probably gonna see Dev. Yeah, they go in. Who did we see in that last slot for Team Red? We've seen Donix, of course, time and time again. Did we see someone else?
Yeah, I think probably what's happening. There is still a chance for Pavin to switch out. Pavin is probably just sitting in lobby just to make sure that the map starts, or just to make sure they know when the map is going to start. But we do see Donix coming in. I do definitely agree with you, though, Dynascape, where Pavin should most likely switch out just for this map alone. Just giving them a chance to be able to rest up for the tiebreaker. I think you have the knowledge on whether you feel confident on this map. I think unless you get like a 990 consistently on this kind of map, I don't really see a real reason why you should be trying to play this, since you already know Gravity Coil scores on this.
Oh yeah, for sure. Looking at Gravity Coil's scores on this, Ray had a 994 performance with 1 miss. I think without that miss, it probably would have been something to the tune of 996, maybe even a little bit more. And Dev had a 2 miss, 250, 100, so a slew of bad judgments, but still almost got a 990. So it seems like both of them should be pretty comfortable. Bad judgments withstanding. Pavin and Donix were cut out for them as they try to end things here. If they can get this break point, they can seal things shut and put an end to the story of Touhou Project Mania Cup before.
Yeah, this is do or die for Gravity Coil. Keep that in mind. We are starting off just a slight lead for Mahjong Soul Official. We have seen Mahjong Soul Official do pretty well on Rice whenever they start out, though they do get further and further into the map and they struggle a bit more. But for now, having this slight lead, it is a razor thin margin. It is very similar to quite a few other Rice maps that we have been seeing. But it's looking like everybody is able to play these very consistently. Nothing really tripping anybody up. But this map is 4 minutes long. It is a density fest of 290 BPM jump stream. There's just so much that is thrown at you for so long. You don't have any time to recover anything.
Exactly. So even though the scores are pretty similar now, as we get further and further into the map, the thread unravels bit by bit, and we get to see little inconsistencies add up, stamina deteriorate, and that's where boys are made into men. Mahjong Soul Official and Gravity Coil seeds 1 and 2 tied neck and neck into this last non-standard pick. Donix fighting Dev, Ray fighting Pavin, and oh boy, SunApple, right? The fact that it's so close so far into the map is getting pretty scary. Gravity Coil was seeded to win this by a good margin, I would think, in a lot of people's heads, but Pavin is showing their jump stream strength at the moment.
Yeah, that's definitely true. They're just absolutely dominating on this map, and we saw Dev take a 200, and that is the reason why the lead swung over to Mahjong Soul Official's side, though it is only by around 500 points. It is just so small. These little inconsistencies, little 200s that are coming in at these 290 BPMs. It is honestly just so impressive to be able to see these players play at such a high level on such a difficult kind of map. Everybody above this 99.9 range. This just means that any kind of miss that we see in this later half, any kind of 200 even, is going to swing the lead immediately in favor of either side.
Oh man, and I mean, Mahjong Soul Official hadn't been doing too well in the Rice pool. Pretty large victories through and throughout for Gravity Coil time and time again throughout the set. But at the last moment, Gravity Coil took the bait, set in stone from Mahjong Soul Official, and 2 points of a difference, 3/4 of the way into the map. Things cannot be any closer. I mean, the fact that Pavan hasn't really shown any cracks in the armor for this past 3 minutes is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I definitely do think Pavan hasn't been showing cracks in the armor, but so has nobody else. And we actually do see one coming out right now, Pavan taking the first break, and that is so devastating, but it is traded immediately back from Ray, and the accuracy I think is actually worse from Ray right now, so Mahjong Soul Official will be probably taking the lead as we get further into the section, and it is right before a break. These accuracies from Don F's, he is Don F. He is Don FC right now. He needs to keep the FC if they want to win this map or even come close to it. Having the higher accuracy than Dev is so vital to this map.
And last couple of jump stream patterns here. Ray had traded out Pavan's miss. The Axe are neck and neck. Donex is trying to drag Mahjong Soul Official across the finish line. However, as the map starts to end, the accuracy is not enough. Last hold, and I think Gravity Coil sealed it. SunApple, that was way too close for comfort. The fact that Pavan and Ray had traded out misses, and 2 misses in fact, each from them. Oh my goodness, the bad judgments were actually the same. We had 2 grades, 100, and 2 misses on both sides in total, but the MA shined through for both Dev and Ray, beating out Pavan Donex by just a little bit. Dev beating out the ratio from Donex by a slight margin, and Ray beating out Pavan by a slight margin. You'd have to imagine an alternate universe where Pavan didn't miss, or maybe even didn't take that 100. Things could have been different, but no, we are getting into the best part of any map pool. We're getting into the tiebreaker at a grand finals level.
This truly is do or die for both teams. We really will see who will move on to not really in the next stage. Whether Mahjong Soul Official will move and complete this tournament, or whether Gravity Coil will have to fight once again and do this intense gauntlet once again. We saw 0 breakpoints from either team, but even if there were 0 breakpoints, we saw so many just insanely close maps. We saw that last rice map, we saw an LN map just go to basically the wire, honestly. And we may see this tiebreaker do the same. I think this is, even though it is slightly in favor of Mahjong Soul Official, just because I think Pavan and Don X just have the capability of playing basically anything. I think Gravity Coil can definitely at least have some advantage in this kind of map, just because Ray has just been so consistent on these kind of hybrids.
Oh boy, SunApple, here we go. Tiebreaker in the grand finals of Touhou Project Mania Cup, the 4th, and potentially not even the last one. Gravity Coil can take this TB against Mahjong Soul Official. The slate will be wiped, and we go back to square one for both of these teams. Pavan and Don X yielding the roster for Mahjong Soul Official. Nothing we haven't seen before, as we see Ray and Resurred for Gravity Coil. And I mean, this is a matchup of the ages. Everyone has to strap in, buckle the seatbelts, and potentially recline your seat back, because we've got 7 minutes of a map left in the tank for all 4 of these players.
Yeah, 7 minutes, about 2 maps that we have been seeing. The average length of this pool is around 3 minutes, I believe. So definitely sit down, get a snack if you haven't had one already, and we will just have to see how this map goes. Either team honestly has the chance of winning this. I believe in the winner. I believe the winner is going to win. I know, it's crazy.
Truer words have never been spoken. The winner is gonna win, the loser is gonna lose, and the players are gonna play on the map. Very calm start, of course, but as we all know, there's so much more left to hold. There's even lots of different little sections in the song. I think in the preview, you saw a more rocky guitar part. There's a couple piano solos. I think there's even a hyperpop section that we'll see later on. But as things stand, for the most part, during this entire set, Papadonix, Resurrect, and Ray have been pretty close together in terms of accuracy. The margins have been razor thin throughout this entire hour and a half that they've been battling. And so far, it's been about the same. I mean, Pavan has a bit of a worse act than Ray, but Resurrect missing means that Donex's lead is gonna help Mahjong Solo Official be up by about 3,000 points.
Yeah, we do see Resurrect taking an early map or miss, but this map is 7 minutes long. There's so many nodes in the map. It doesn't mean too much in the grand scheme of things, as long as Mahjong Official doesn't double FC, which I don't think that's possible. I think if we see a double FC, then they already deserve to win, and like it's not really much that can be said.
Yeah, no, not at all. Things are ramping up just by a little bit, and here we go with this funkier breakdown section. Loud drum, loud bass, and some quick jump stream. In general, this is gonna be one of the sparse rice sections. Honestly, I think I mentioned this before, but I do think that overwhelmingly, a lot of this TB can be attributed to harder LN sections, and you see it there. Once the LNs kick in, you're gonna see Gravity Coil struggle by just a little bit. Ray and Resurrect taking a full combo reset. Pavan and Don FC still holding on tightly as Mahjong Solo Official 7,500 points on a map like this where it's this long and there's so many objects. I think 9,000 points is crazy. And Resurrect misses again. Bancho is pausing the map, making everyone hold their breaths. And oh man, SunApple, this one has got to be for the ages.
This truly is. I think what you said is so right about this 10k lead. It means just so much, especially considering that Mahjong Solo Official still 0 misses so far. Hopefully I don't curse them and they miss in this map, or in this random section of the map, not a random map. But yeah, the 10k lead, very difficult to overcome from. Just anything can go wrong for Mahjong Official though, especially as we get into these more rice heavy sections. I think that is especially where Mahjong Solo Official will lose a lot of their points. But Gravity Coil has been very consistent at it, though I think we have to make sure that Resurrect is able to stay strong on those as well, since they have been lacking a bit. I think that it has been the weakest part of Gravity Coil so far.
100%, and a little bit of a break for most of these players, but we get a bit of dense jacks before we get into the next section here. And again, it's overwhelmingly LN. We're gonna have to see how these people are tested. We talked about Pavan's stamina before. Could that be a factor as we get into the back half of the map? Seems like Raising and Resurrect are doing quite fine, all things considered, on these LNs. And Ray has done such a great job despite the misses, being able to beat Pavan in terms of accuracy. We're just gonna need Resurrect to kick things up a notch in this last 3 minutes. Don X, of course, being Don FC, 99.81 from him as he still holds on to the FC, and Resurrect actually taking a miss. They've been struggling the most out of all 4 of the players, and as we get into a more techier section, hopefully Gravity Coil can hold strong, because right now that lead is quite large for Mahjong Solo Official.
Yeah, and these nerfs are definitely getting to all these players, I would say. We have been seeing, I even though you may not see it from Mahjong Solo Official, we've been seeing a lot of, I guess, uncharacteristic 200s, or like even, I think I've seen like a 100 or 2 from both players. And that's definitely just showing just based off these nerfs on all these players, it is Grand Finals tiebreaker. Lead is luckily 15k in favor of Mahjong Soul Official. We do see their first miss so far, Pavin taking a very, very clean one luckily, but we do only have a quarter of the map left. It's looking really, really good for Mahjong Soul Official. This lead went from 15k all the way to 12k, so not a huge difference, honestly.
No, not at all. We're gonna need to see a lot more misses from Pavin, and maybe that stamina is starting to kick in. They do take a miss, but Ray trades it out quite cleanly. We get into yet another hybridy section here. A lot of staircases to be had, and that lead hasn't budged by too much. Pavin taking yet another miss. I think everyone else in the audience is gonna want a lot more misses on the side of Mahjong Soul Official for the sake of a closer match. And Gravity Coil is slowly clawing their way back into this tiebreaker. About 2 minutes left in the map, couple more sections. Resurred taking a miss on the jack, and here we go.
Yeah, I think if Gravity Coil wants even a chance to be able to win this match, they really need to step it up right now. They cannot take any more misses, and they need Pavin to just continually take a lot of misses. About an eighth of the map left, about a minute to go for Mahjong Soul Official. They just have to hold on tight for that one last minute. They need Dynascape to just continually hold this combo that they have, getting up to this 10k combo, which is absolutely crazy, and Pavin just has to hold strong. Only a minute left. Keep your stamina up as high as possible if you want to be able to win this last match.
Thankfully, this section is pretty jump streamy for the most part, and we've seen Pavin time and time again do well on the jump stream maps. However, they did take a break, but lots more is going to need to be had, and there's not a lot of time left. The last grains of sand are slowly falling through the hourglass of Touhou Project Mania Cup, the fourth, and as the map tries to close out, Gravity Coil trying their best, but Resurred falling. Don X finishes with an FC on the Grand Finals TV. What a way to finish off this tournament.
Hey, they started off this match, I believe, with an FC and ending it with the FC. That is why they call him Don F. Congratulations to Mahjong Soul Official being able to dethrone Gravity Coil, having a Resurred, Adiza, I believe was their old name, one of the previous winners, as well as Ray, I believe, of Touhou Mania Cup 3. Both of them sadly being dethroned, instead Pavin and Don X at the top of the ladder.
Yeah, torch passed on to new names as Mahjong Soul Official takes it. Nickname Pavin, Donix, and Koshipen. Very much so. Congratulations to all four of them as they win Touhou Project Mania Cup, the fourth, in dominating fashion, not even dropping a set to anyone, winning through Winterside's Grand Finals without a reset, and of course, well played to Gravity Coil. That consists of Ray, Poka, Dev, and Resurred. They absolutely killed it on these maps. They put up such a good fight. Close maps all throughout this entire slugfest, and also even the TB. They had moments of greatness. What a match to end it on, SunApple.
It truly is. Shoutouts to everybody who has staffed for this tournament. I really do appreciate you. Shoutouts to the ref. I believe it was Pilot that ref this match, I think. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Pilot. And shoutouts to Robot Skin for streaming. And shoutout to Dynascape.
Of course. So, with all that being said, we hope you guys had enjoyed this entire installment of Touhou Project Mania Cup, the fourth. It was a pleasure staffing for this entire tournament. We hope the players had fun. We hope the viewers were entertained. And of course, big thanks to everyone that helped out. Big or small, every contribution mattered to the organizers and to this entire tournament. One last thing before we go. Of course, I gotta say it one more time as everyone's watching. If you guys did enjoy this tournament, any part of it, and would like to help out even just a little bit and show your love to the organizers, we do have a Ko-fi link available in the description of either the Bilibili channel, the Twitch channel, or even the link channel in the Discord. If you guys could and you're able to monetarily support the organizers of the tournament, because they've worked absolutely so hard. People like YuEast and a lot of GB, Clever Boy, Rush, just a case, anyone helping out. There's so many big names that had a part in, even the artists involved. We'd very much so appreciate that if you can. But with all that being said, I think we gotta wrap it up here, SunApple. Once again, congratulations to Mahjong Seoul official for winning Touhou Project Mania Cup the 4th. I'm sure this is not the last we'll see of this tournament. Hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully we will catch you in the next one.
Bye!